Hey everybody, this is Body Systems, part 5, the last ones. Here we go. Now, your spinal cord extends from the base of the brain into your vertebral canal, and it is protected by your bony vertebrae. And here, if you look at this picture, you see the gray matter. It looks like kind of an upside down butterfly, and basically sensory fibers will enter into this gray matter, and then motor fibers will actually leave the gray matter. And these roots join together as spinal nerves. Now, your spinal cord is really the kind of intermediary step between the brain and the rest of your body. And you have reflexes that actually go around your spinal cord or through this path of the spinal cord, through your sensory neurons, to your inner neurons, and then to your motor neurons, which the motor neurons will carry the impulse to your effectors. Remember, an effector is a muscle, an organ, or a gland. Okay, so if you've ever had your knee tapped by that little instrument that they use in the doctor's office, basically that impulse is just going around the spinal cord or through the spinal cord, through spinal nerves, and then coming right back. It's not actually going to your brain. Now, the four major areas of the brain, you have your cerebrum, which accounts for voluntary movement, a lot of conscious thought. Our senses are dealt with here. You have your diencephalon, which is your hypothalamus and your thalamus. Your thalamus is a big sensory relay center, and it's responsible for memory, emotional thoughts. And then you have your hypothalamus, which is really important for body temperature, water balance, appetite, sleeping patterns, things like that. It's really just the homeostatic, center of your brain, and it manufactures a lot of hormones and deals with your pituitary gland. Your cerebellum, that's really important for motor movement, and that helps you stand up straight and walk appropriately. And then you have your brainstem, and the brainstem has three big parts. You have your midbrain, which has tracks passing between your cerebrum and your cerebellum. You have your pons, which also has these axons going between the cerebellum and the rest of your central nervous system. And then you have your medulla oblongata, and that's the control center for basic things like heartbeat, breathing, blood pressure, vomiting, other things like that. And here's your brain, basically cut down the middle. The cerebrum is going to be towards the front, and the cerebellum is towards the back, and the brainstem. You have your midbrain, pons, and medulla. Your medulla oblongata will connect onto your spinal cord. And your diencephalon, which contains your thalamus and hypothalamus, is really kind of in the middle. Okay. If you'll notice, you have your pineal gland. Your pineal gland secretes melatonin, which is important for sleeping and wakefulness. Your meninges give a lot of padding, okay, in between your brain and your skull. And then you have your ventricles, and that's where cerebrospinal fluid passes through. Now, your autonomic nervous system, that's important for fight or flight. Your sympathetic nervous system, what that happens in times of great stress, when you're running from a bear, for instance. If that happens, hopefully it won't, then your heart rate will increase, your bronchi will dilate, your pupils get bigger, okay, your digestive tract will inhibit, you're not going to feel hungry, and you'll actually have an extra burst of energy, and that's from epinephrine and norepinephrine. And then your parasympathetic nervous system just helps calm you back down, and that promotes a lot of rest and digest. You will feel hungry again, your heart rate will calm back down, your blood pressure will go back down, things like that. Now, your endocrine system, that consists of glands and tissues that make hormones. And hormones are chemicals that affect other glands that are a lot of times far away from where they're actually made. Now, hormones are really important for helping us go through changes in our life, like puberty or menopause. Hormones are very important for growth, okay, helping us grow taller, and just helping us develop as we age. And here are some of the glands where your hormones basically reside. You have parathyroid glands, your thyroid glands, your thymus, your pancreas, okay, and then also the testes and the ovaries. Okay, and then you also have your pituitary gland, okay, your pineal gland. You don't have to remember what comes out of each gland, but these are just kind of where they're located. Oh, and I forgot your adrenal glands. Those are important too. Some common hormones that you may be familiar with. Glucagon is going to raise your blood sugar, whereas insulin will lower your blood sugar. Okay, people that have diabetes, they either don't make insulin or their insulin receptors do not work very well, so they have to take insulin either through shots or through like a pump. Okay, or through, some of them have to take oral pills too. Testosterone stimulates male sex characteristics, whereas estrogen stimulates female sex characteristics. Melatonin, you can actually buy melatonin over the counter, and it stimulates circadian rhythms, which are very important for sleeping and wakefulness. Okay. ADH, or antidiuretic hormone, that stimulates water reabsorption by the kidney, so it helps you retain water. And then epinephrine and norepinephrine, that raises your blood sugar, so that you'll have enough energy to run from the bear, let's say. And it's also helps you have an extra burst of energy, during emergencies. Now, in the male reproductive system, you have the genital tract. Sperm are produced by the seminiferous tubules of the testes, and then they mature in the epididymis. And then the sperm are going to pass through the vas deferens, and then they basically go out the urethra. Okay. And semen tends to be alkaline, and it contains fructose, prostaglandins, actually smells kind of sugary. Now, the male reproductive system here, sperm are produced in the seminiferous tubules of the testes, okay, and then they mature in the epididymis, and then they just pass out of the urethra there. Okay, if you'll notice, the prostate gland, okay, is up towards the top of the page, and then the urinary bladder is up near the top also. The male reproductive system, the testes produce sperm, and they also produce hormones, things like testosterone. They are located outside the body cavity because the inside of the body is too high for a temperature for sperm production. It would actually kill them if the testes were located inside the body. And then the scrotum actually helps regulate the temperature of the testes so they don't get too overheated. Now, hormone regulation in males, you have GnRH, which is gonadotropin releasing hormone. That's released from your hypothalamus in your brain, and that causes the anterior pituitary gland to release FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, and LH, which is luteinizing hormone. Now, it's important to know FSH stimulates sperm production, and LH makes testosterone. Okay, so let's keep that straight. Testosterone is what helps men, go through puberty and things like that. Okay, so FSH stimulates sperm production, LH makes testosterone. Now, female reproductive system, you have oogenesis, which is production of an egg or an oocyte, or an oocyte, however you want to say it. Ovulation, that's when oocyte bursts from the ovary and is going to go into the oviduct, or your fallopian tubes, like that, and it will rest down inside the uterus. Okay. And here's a picture of all this. Your ovaries will release the eggs, and the eggs will float down through the fallopian tubes and position themselves in the uterus. And if they are fertilized, then of course the fetus will start to grow. And if not, then it will just be a normal hormone cycle. Now, please realize during ovulation is the most fertile time for a woman to get pregnant. So it's really in between the woman's two menstrual cycles. Okay, so in the proliferative phase, estrogen and progesterone, estrogen particularly will start to increase right before ovulation, and then progesterone towards after ovulation will get a big surge towards and that's actually in the secretory phase. Now, fertilization and pregnancy. Basically, an embryo will develop in the oviduct, and implantation that happens when an embryo is migrating into the uterus. Okay, and the embryo or the zygote will begin to produce HCG, which is human chorionic gonadotropin, and that is what pregnancy tests actually detect is HCG. Okay, it's just a hormone, and you have to be really pregnant to secrete that. Okay, and so HCG maintains the corpus luteum and prevents a drop in the levels of estrogen and progesterone. Okay, and later on, the placenta will actually secrete estrogen and progesterone also. And estrogen and progesterone prevent ovulation so that you don't continue to have menstrual cycles. It also helps to maintain the endometrium where the baby is going to grow. All right, and that's it.